Okay, I think we'll get going. We've got quite a lot to get through today, so we'll crack on. Welcome everybody to the Mindwell Refresh launch event. My name's Ros Davies, and I'm the Managing Director of Habitat. We're a co-design digital inclusion and innovation team hosted by Leeds and York Partnership Foundation Trust. Thank you very much for coming along today to help launch Mindwell Refresh. We hope you'll find it interesting and informative, and we'll certainly be having an interesting discussion later on about the importance and also the challenges around digital information platforms as part of mental health services. I'm going to get the guests to introduce themselves in a moment. We've got a really brilliant lineup today, which I'm really looking forward to hearing from everybody. I wanted to say thank you very much, really, to all the guests who've taken the time out of their busy schedules today to join us. And also thank you to all the people who've been involved in making and commissioning and using Mindwell in the last 5 years. With a little special thank you to Elizabeth, Caroline, Janet and Alistair, who've helped us in terms of commissioning and embedding Mindwell across the city. And also Tim and Yumi, who are the original people who helped to build Mindwell. And the fantastic Emma and Greg at HMA who've helped us with the refresh. So just to give you a few sort of technical housekeeping instructions, we're using Zoom today, obviously, and this is a webinar, and we're actually going to record this. So it'll be available on YouTube in due course. If you want to sort of share your ideas and comments and so on, and also potentially chat to other people who are participating today, please use the chat function. If you want to ask the panel questions, I'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A function, so if you'd like to use that. We're using the hashtag, if anybody wants to talk about what's happening on Twitter, we're using the hashtag Mindwell Refresh. And you can also, if you want to connect us in with the wider Mental Health Awareness Week, you can use that hashtag too. We are mostly, not all of us, but mostly all working from home today. So do please bear with us if we have any dogs or children or window cleaners or anything else like that. I've had all three of those things interrupt me today. So just bear with us on that. It just makes life a little bit more interesting, doesn't it? And keeps us all on our toes. So in a moment, I'm going to do a round of introductions. And next, I'm going to give you, and after that, I'll give you a little bit of background on the context to Mindwell. And then we're going to have a look at the impact. Sanna's going to share a little bit more information about the impact today of Mindwell, and Nicola's going to give us a whistle-stop tour. And then after that, we're going to have a bit of a panel discussion, as I said, about the pros and cons of digital information platforms in mental health services. And I think there's quite a lot of things to talk through there. We'll have some closing words, and Nicola will share with us the fantastic Mindwell's latest campaign relating to the Mental Health Awareness Week that we're in at the moment, which is around nature and mental health, something that's very close to my heart. So without further ado, I'd like to ask the panel to introduce yourselves, and it would also be, as the panel are introducing themselves, it would be really interesting to also hear from our participants and who you are and what brought you into the Zoom today. I think I'll start with Nicola, who's on my left-hand side.
Hello everyone, I'm Nicola and I'm the Content and Communications Manager for Mindwell based at Volition. And I've been working on the project for 5 years, almost from the beginning, looking after content communications and engagement activities.
Pete, over to you. Sorry.
Hello everyone, I'm Pete Nuckley. I'm Deputy Director of Design and Delivery at Habitat, and my work primarily focuses on inclusive digital transformation and digital inclusion.
And Sanna?
Hi everyone, I'm Sanna. I work at Habitat too. I've been working on Mindwell since the very start of my role, which was last year. And I create all the reports and all evaluation bits. And yeah, I've been working on Mindwell from the very beginning.
Brilliant. And Sarah, you're next on my screen.
Hello everyone, I'm Sarah Monroe and I'm the Chief Exec at Leeds and York Partnership NHS Trust.
And then Hannah.
Sorry, hi, I'm Hannah Davies. I'm Chief Exec at Healthwatch Leeds, and two of our current big focus work areas are mental health and digital inclusion.
Thank you. And finally, Alison.
Hello, my name's Alison Lowe and I'm currently co-chair of Volition that holds the wonderful Mindwell as part of our team. I currently am chief exec of Touchstone, one of the recipients of this wonderful Mindwell resource that belongs to Leeds. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and I'm really delighted and privileged to be here with you today. So I'm just going to give us a little bit of context, just to get us in the zone, really, a little bit of background and context behind Mindwell. I mean, it's been going for 5 years now, so you know, it's quite a mature platform. And I think the most important point to sort of start with really is that this is a genuine and authentic, and I think a really good example of partnership working across the public sector and the third sector. In particular, it's been developed by Volition and Habitat, sorry, but also all of these other partners have been involved in either sponsoring or really supporting the platform as it's developed as a service. And I think really important, it isn't just about the people who've delivered it or designed it or funded it, it's also the people who've used it and inputted into it along the way. And I think it genuinely is and feels like a city asset. And I'm fairly new to the city. I've been working here for about a year and I see it everywhere in the strategies, you know, being mentioned in meetings and so on. And I think it's really become an embedded part of mental health services in Leeds. I think it's also quite important to say, you know, why we do this, what's behind all of this, what's the purpose here, you know, it has had a sort of long-term purpose, but recently as part of the refresh we did sort of ask ourselves these questions again, and we used the you know, the golden circle sort of thing to try and help us sort of frame this. This is an example of some of the co-design work that we did around the purpose. And I think just sort of picking out a couple of the real key parts of the why we do what we do. One of them was about believing that no one in Leeds who is struggling with their mental health should feel alone or unsupported, and that we wanted people to be able to find the right good quality information to get that support at the right time. So that's why we do this and what's behind Mindwell itself. And the how we do it is we use a blended approach, and I think this is going to become more important as well going forward as we think about digital exclusion and so on. But use a blended approach of connecting with with activities that are happening, activities and services that are happening in real life, and using obviously digital as an enabler. And then secondly, there's the important part about this being a partnership, and that is absolutely crucial to the success and the use of something like this. And finally, there's something about, you know, the passion, and anyone who knows Nicola will know that she's really passionate and really committed to this work, and it doesn't just happen lightly. This has taken an awful lot of hard work, and I think hard work and dedication has got to be sort of part of how we do things, I think, here. And then finally, the sort of last part of the circle is about what we do. So the way that we articulated it was that we create and curate well-designed, quality, accessible and safe content. We work with providers of mental health services and organisations who might be trusted touch points with our communities. And we integrate Mindwell into people's care and into toolkits. And we deliver campaigns to raise awareness. We'll be talking about one of those later on. And we offer training and support to help people make the most of the website. So that's the sort of the how we deliver Mindwell. And then there's something about, I just wanted to sort of just reflect on the journey that Mindwell's been through, because as I said, I don't think you come up with something of this quality and embedded into the extent that Mindwell is in the system just overnight. And it was launched back in 2016 on World Mental Health Day on the 10th of October. And I think at this point, it was a seed of an idea, and it was a really good idea, but you could tell that it was a good idea because instantly within the first month, they had over 4,000 visits. And then, you know, it started to grow in terms of profile and so on, and they won a few awards. I think there's a picture of Nicola up there. And it's really grown from strength to strength, and the reach in terms of the reach out into communities and into services. And we did bring in someone to actually do that outreach work and recognise that, you know, you needed to do that blended approach. There's been all sorts of road shows, and really infiltration into the city's infrastructure and services and strategies and so on. And there was an evaluation back in 2019, which really showed the impact and the sort of continually increase in use of the platform. And Sana will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So then back in March of last year, as we know, everything changed. And I think that's where, you know, that hard work that's gone on behind the scenes that really came into its own. So Mindwell became a really vital resource in this city. And one reason was that Nicola and her team had the you know, the nous really to actually act really quickly and set up a coronavirus hub page. And they got information, the right up-to-date information, safe quality information, and obviously you know, it was changing on an almost daily basis at sometimes, wasn't it, during that time, but we were able to get it on there, get it out, and it be available to everybody who was able to connect into the service. So and then by October 2020, we knew that we needed to rebuild. This happens in most digital platforms, that it was, you know, we've got to a point where it had grown out of its original kind of form, if you like. And we were supported by Alistair Cartwright and various other people in the system to actually get some funding to rebuild it. And at that point, we brought HMA on board, who are a brilliant digital technology company who've been fantastic in helping us to get where we've got to today. And we were really able to build it so that it's now more adaptable, and I think we'll be able to sort of extend the growth and so on as we go forward. So that's where we are today. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to hand over to Sana, who's going to talk a little bit more about the impact of Mindwell.
Hi everyone. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a breakdown of what's been happening over the past year. So some of the work being done is, well, obviously the rebuilding of the site. We've launched a number of new pages, like the working from home page and the student page. We've hosted training sessions within the community, participated in many events, including Leeds Digital Festival. We participated in 3 events in Leeds Digital Festival, provided up-to-date information on the pandemic. Like Ross said, it was changing pretty much every day, so it was really helpful to have that. Produced printed resources to support users digitally excluded, and also translated those paper resources into 6 community languages. And they're only some of the activities from the past year, so there's been quite a lot going on. So Mindwell launched on the 10th of October in 2016, and since the launch until May the 8th, there has been around 1.7 million page hits, and then over 369,000 users. On the 26th of March, when the UK went into a national lockdown during this period until the 8th of March, which is when of 2021, which is when the 3rd national lockdown started easing, Mindwell has seen an increase in users by 30% in comparison to the previous year. There's also been around just over 500,000 page views overall, which is an increase of 21% from the previous year. There's also been an increase of 14% in users on the I Need Help Now page, which is great to see. We also have a feature on the website called Browse Aloud. Browse Aloud is used on the Mindwell website as the main accessibility tool. Many features, including translating the website as well as reading the text aloud. And in the past year, the analytics have shown us that it's been used quite a lot. So the toolbar has been used just over 3,000 times, and the speech tool has been used just over 1,500 times. So from the get-go of the pandemic, the team worked together to provide coronavirus support. So the Mindwell launched the Coronavirus Taking Care of Your Mental Wellbeing page on the 13th of March as an immediate response to the coronavirus outbreak. The site then launched the Coronavirus Mental Health Information Hub on the 9th of April to provide a go-to place for information relating to COVID-19 and mental health for people and professionals all over the city. And the hub is now one of the top viewed pages in the past year. It is also a key resource on the Leeds City Council's Coronavirus Health for People and Communities page. And to date, that page has had 15,641 hits, which is brilliant. And we've also had some great qualitative feedback. So Forward Lead said, thank you for updating your website with our latest details. It's so important right now that up-to-date information is available, and you're doing a great job for the city, which is really nice to hear that Mindwell is making such an impact. So to help with the hub, Mindwell also launched a video guide for an introduction of information. So the hub has been quite useful overall. So Mindwell has also been recognised for its work during the lockdown in multiple news outlets such as the Yorkshire Evening Post and Telegraph and Argos. So overall, there has been some great work being done with the new site. It would be really good to see how Mindwell impacts users in the years to come. And that's it from me, just talking about the impact.
Thank you, Sana. That's fantastic overview. And there's sort of lots to be drawn from those figures, I think. I mean, obviously, you need to kind of understand some of the stuff behind it, because in some ways, it's great that it's being really well used and the use is increased and so on. In other ways, it's also quite sad, isn't it? And I think there is some sort of I was quite I don't know quite what to think about this significant increase in use from this time last year, and some of the, and particularly pages like "I want urgent help" and so on. So there's a lot behind those statistics, I think.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hand over to Nicola. So there is nobody who knows Mindwell like Nicola, and she's the heart and soul of this platform. And she's carefully and expertly curated the content for a long time now. So I think there's nobody better to give us a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the Mindwell Refresh version. So I'm going to hand over to you, Nicola. Over to you.
Thanks, Ross. I'm just going to share my screen. Hope everyone can see the new website. So I'm delighted to give you a quick tour of the new website. It keeps the important concept developed through co-design back in 2016 when we first launched, that Mindwell should be welcoming, friendly and easy to use. But it's much improved with better accessibility, content management and some new features that we're going to see now. So let's have a look at the homepage. Just want to point out, first of all, the orange button. This is Browse Aloud that Sana mentioned earlier. It can translate the website into nearly 100 languages and read it out loud in 40. So it's a great tool to use. We've redeveloped our crisis page through a workshop with people with lived experience and also people from Health Watch and Leeds Survivor-led Crisis Service. The button here now has a new name. It's a question that came out of the workshop, and it's much bigger and brighter. And also you'll notice that it turns yellow when you hover over it. That's an accessibility device, and it helps people with certain conditions like dyslexia. So if we just have a quick look. So we've now got a new structure. The content is displayed to help people to easily find different kinds of content. The information is being pared down and really is much more user focused. We've also got some other helpful information at the bottom that came out of the workshop. We've got some information to help calm and distract people, and also links to our new directory and also a paper resource that we developed with Health Watch. So I'll just go back to the homepage. The next thing to point out is our new carousel, which we're really excited about. It can help us to display content and events. So this week, obviously, it's Mental Health Awareness Week. We're also at the moment promoting Browse Aloud and our self-care tips and ideas. And then you can start exploring the website. So Mindwell was designed so that anyone in Leeds could use it, whether you're looking for yourself, worried about someone, or if you're a professional supporting other people. And we'll come back to these content areas in a moment. The homepage also can now direct people to a brand new feature, which is our new services directory. So in here you can find quick links to all kinds of wellbeing services, and also services for issues that might affect someone's mental health, such as money worries, housing issues, whether you're caring for someone, So we'll be building this up even more over time. The website homepage also has quick self-referral links to Leeds Mental Wellbeing Service as one of the key services for mental health in the city. And we've also got a link to MindMate for information for people under 18. You can also explore our introduction to Mindwell animation. And we've also got a new news page, campaigns area and blog. So do check out our very first blog written by Gillian in the team, which explores how the pandemic's been affecting our well-being and how we can take care of ourselves as restrictions start to ease. Just go back. And then at the bottom, you'll see we've now got a place for our wonderful partners to really display that Mindwell is an important city asset. And also down here, site feedback. So please do send us your feedback and comments through this web page. And now if we can have a look at some of the key content areas in Mindwell. So I'm looking for myself. If we just pop in here a second, you can find information to help you better understand common problems like anxiety, low moods and stress. We'll just have a quick look in stress. So in here with the CBT based information around understanding stress, self-help coping strategies, links to find support, mobile phone apps. And you'll also find throughout here lots of downloadable resources and animations, such as the stress bucket animation here. We also have in here lots of information, tools, techniques and support to help you look after your mental well-being, which is obviously super important at the moment. We've got information about looking after your physical health, mindfulness, relaxation techniques, creativity, and we get lots of services in the city to contribute to all these ideas and information tools. And then quick look in here. So this section can help you help you understand the mental health support that's available in the city, very local information in here, numbers that you can call, how to find support for common problems, when to talk to your GP. There's also lots of information about the third sector support, counselling, peer support groups and wellbeing courses such as those offered by the Recovery College. And then, as has been mentioned in the opening remarks, we've got the Coronavirus Mental Health Hub. This was set up during the first lockdown very quickly, with lots of information to support people during the pandemic, all the online support that became really vital during social distancing, all the online groups that were set up, and also very immediate information about how all the different services, very complex set of support services were all adapting to social distancing. And then we'll just go into someone else. So we've got a section, if you're worried about someone, that was something that really emerged from the co-design workshops that we did back in 2016. What do you do if you're worried about someone? So we've got information about potentially spotting the signs, having a conversation with someone about their mental health, and how to support someone, how to find support for someone who might be struggling. In the professionals area, we've got resources and referral information for professionals. We've got a wellbeing guide for employers that was developed with the Mindful Employer, a toolkit and self-help resources library. Many professionals we know use Mindwell as a teaching tool and will text or email links to people that they are supporting. So what's next for Mindwell? We're still working to improve the website. It hasn't been live that long. For instance, at the moment, we're working with GPs to review and improve the GP section. We've got a workshop next week with some local people to really test how people are finding information on the site and seeing if we can improve the central navigation. We're also doing lots of work to improve the accessibility of the website, which is really, really important, that it's accessible to as many people as possible. So to do this, we've already made the colour palette brighter to increase the contrast. We've now using an
We've lost your sound, Nicola, for a moment or two. We'll give her just a second, see if she can, I can see she's still moving the screen around. Just give her a minute or two to come back in. Yay, she's come back. You lost your sound for a minute there, Nicola.
Oh no, do I need to go back?
No, don't worry, it's only for a second too. Probably need to wrap up a little bit anyway. So.
Okay, and I was just saying we're doing lots of work to make the site more accessible. Yeah. Adding alt text descriptions to icons, illustrations, transcripts to animations, and then we'll be testing all the improvements with people with sensory impairments and people who use screen readers. Back to you, Ros.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicola. Obviously, I don't think these things ever stop. You don't ever go, this is the end of the project, it's all sorted. You know, it's a continual process of evolution, and you know, the life and the policies and the context that we're working with is also evolving. So it's the long game, isn't it, Nicola?
It is. It's never ending. Yeah.
It's never ending. But having said that, I think we've come an awful long way, and recently a member of my family was struggling with their family's mental health, and we were trying to find out information about services in a different area, and there wasn't a Mindwell, and it took a long time to actually find the stuff that we needed, and I'm you know, that's coming from me, and I can find my way around the internet. So I think this is a really vital and important service that should be around for everyone, everywhere. Having said that, there are challenges as well, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge some of the context that we're working with, the opportunities and the challenges and the changing context that we're working with. So I'd really like to sort of now bring in Sarah and Alison and Hannah and Pete and probably Nicola a little bit more as well. And have a conversation about that, and let's you know, get some real honesty about what's happening around us, and also, you know, some guidance really about what we do next. So you know, and acknowledging some of those challenges, but also some of the stuff, you know, some of the important, useful stuff that having a digital information platform like Mindwell brings. So Alison and Sarah, I've got a question for you specifically, if you don't mind. So this has been a really difficult year, and we know that there's going to be a longer term impact, and it's not a simple thing that I say here, it's very complex, but there is going to be a longer term impact on mental health and on mental health services. And what do you think are the opportunities and challenges of digital information platforms like Mindwell in the context of mental health services going forward? Alison, do you want to? I can see you're
Yeah, I was already unmuted, so, and I don't know why it doesn't say my full title, which is she, her, because those are my pronouns. I think it's, I'm using a different system. So obviously, the with or without coronavirus lockdown and all the rest of it, Mindwell was an amazing resource, is an amazing resource for Leeds. And I know that the rest of West Yorkshire is incredibly envious of that fantastic resource that we've got. And as a professional working at Touchstone, I used it regularly. I signposted friends and colleagues and service users, but I also used it for myself when I was feeling down and needing information. So a brilliant, brilliant resource. But clearly, in the time of COVID and lockdown, it's even more central to the well-being, the mental healthy well-being of the city of Leeds. And because not only can I use it for myself, I can use it for my family, my friends, and professionals can use it. And it just gives all the information that you need in one place. And if you're sitting at home and needing that support for yourself or somebody else, it's all together in one place. It is amazing. This week, it's even got all the information on about Mental Health Awareness Week. It's got Leeds Dad's Walk in the park, a new Wortley Community Centres, photography sessions. It's that up to date. It's so relevant, and it's just an amazing resource for Leeds. The downside has got to be access to digital, because without access to digital, without understanding how to use IT, then those people most in need are the ones who won't be able to access it. And when we had lockdown 1 and 2, all the buildings where you got free access to Wi-Fi were closed. So we need to address that.
Sarah, do you want to come in
Yeah,
there?
I will. I'll echo some of the things that Alison has said, really. I think platforms like this have a couple of really important roles. One is all the content that's on there, which is around educating people, self-awareness, and giving people the skills and confidence to support others. And there's a lot to be said for educating people to normalise what we're going through. And I think the COVID resources are really important. You can feel as though you're on your own feeling in this particular way, but through the routes of education and creating that awareness, that can take some of the distress and reduce some of the distress for people to realise you're not on your own. But there's another important aspect of this, which is around giving people access to services. So the fact that you can use it to direct refer to something like the Leeds Mental Wellbeing Service is really important, because we know a lot of people still experience stigma and shame when it's their mental health that they're suffering with. Most people will still typically go and see their GP and complain of something other than their mental ill health, so usually physical symptoms, and will go multiple times because of that, not having the confidence to have the conversation around what's really going on in the thoughts and the feelings. So giving that confidential, safe space to directly access support and treatment overcomes one of those barriers for people. And we also know, unfortunately, there is a differential that when you're relying on human beings to do referrals onto the services, lots of people will go and be seeking mental health support and might not get the right support that they need. And we know that has an impact in terms of people's ethnic background, whether they get access to talking therapies or medication or anything at all. And so that's the whole importance of self-referral and direct access. But a bit like Alison says, there's a risk in there, because you've got to be computer literate. You've got to have that degree of self-awareness in the first place to be able to navigate the system to get the right support and solution for you. And so it won't be suitable for everybody. And some people do need a bit more support of understanding what's going on, whether it's a complex presentation and that interaction face-to-face with a professional, whether that be the GP or somebody else, to make sure they get to the right service as well, because it's timely access to the right service, and the earlier you can do that for people, the best chance you've got to support them into recovery quicker. So it's a range, and we know citizen choice, and there's a citizen choice about how you want to access services, and that does give that to people, but it should be seen as part of that spectrum of different ways to access mental health support.
Thank you. Thank you both. I think that leads nicely on to some of the work that Hannah's been doing around understanding people's experience over the last year around accessing digital services. And I wonder if Hannah, if you want to sort of come in there.
Yeah, no, thanks. I suppose just to echo what Alison and Sarah and everyone said, though, Mindwell is so good. I mean, it is, and not only because it helps us understand which services to go to and gives us information, but because of the way that Nicola writes it. It's just so sensitive and so relatable, and just to completely, I've always been a Mindwell ambassador. I'm still waiting for my pin badge, Nicola, but it is absolutely amazing. I suppose what part of my frustration around it is, how can we make everybody in Leeds be aware of this, because it is such a good resource for us. In terms of the digital exclusion, though, that as Alison and Sarah said, it is a real issue, and even before COVID, we did a big piece of work talking to people around. At the time, it was long-term plans, so the NHS plans for how health and care might be different, and there was a big push towards digital. And what people said to us was, digital has to be part of an options. It can't be the default. And I think that remains true now, or even more true out of COVID. During COVID, we worked together as a city. We've got this thing called the People's Voices Group, which wants to work together to listen to people's experiences. And we've produced 2 reports, and we're about to do another report about the impact of the move to digital services, non-face-to-face, as a result of COVID. And the first one, I think, highlighted probably what everybody knows anyway, but I think put it into one report, but highlighted barriers such as poverty and cost. It's not just buying the phone, but it's also being able to afford the bandwidth and the Wi-Fi. Things like age as well. There are certain demographics of population that again might not feel as comfortable in terms of accessing information online. Literacy and communication preferences, skills and motivation, precarious lifestyles, privacy as well. You know, again, just you know, mental health is still a word that is a term that is you know, there's a massive stigma for many people, and logging on and a mental health website again might not be appropriate for some people. Disabilities and specific conditions, they were additional barriers that were put in place, and also trust in IT, and again linked to mental health, that feels really relevant around, you know, being open and worried that actually people might be able to find out that you're accessing support in an IT on an IT platform. I mean, within Leeds, we're doing lots of, you know, there's a lot of work. We've got 100% digital who are doing a lot of work in Leeds around, because the idea in Leeds is about giving people the choice. It's not saying that everything should be digital, but that everybody should have that choice to be digital if they want to, which is brilliant. And there's you know, such a significant amount of work going on, but that's a big ask, and that's a big piece of work for us to do. And so we need to, you know, I suppose and there's such a lot of work going on around inequalities at the moment, and the question around how are we ensuring that our services are accessible to people with the greatest health inequalities. And you could say the same around this, couldn't you? How are we making sure that people with the greatest health inequalities have got good information, as beautifully and kindly written as Nicola writes it, and have got good signposting to good services without having to have access to digital?
I think that's a really brilliant challenge for us to actually take forward this year. Thank you for that, Hannah. So we also have Pete here, who was he's joined Habitat in the last 6 months off the back of running the NHS Widening Digital Participation Programme, which was all about how do we overcome digital exclusion in health. And I think there's a sort of there's a couple of important principles. One is that it shouldn't be, I don't think, digital by default. This is not all about digital. Digital is the means to an end, not the end. So we should always be using digital as an enabler and never a blocker. And that's a sort of fundamental principle here. But the other side of it is that it isn't just health services that people aren't able to access if they're digital. It's, you know, benefits, it's you know, cheaper things that they can buy, insurance or whatever. It's friendship, you know, in the time of COVID and so on. And so really, we do really have a responsibility, I think, anyone who's pushing and using digital, to also be part of how do we overcome those barriers, and how do we actually create a society where everybody can thrive and flourish. And I think Pete's done quite a lot of work around that. So I was just sort of, you know, with all those challenges in mind, Pete, what sort of recommendations would you have, and what kind of experience have you had that you could share with us today?
Rose, are you asking me to solve digital inclusion in form?
I am actually, yeah, and you know.
So I guess
the right direction.
Part of the thing here is everyone has raised all the right points, right? So clearly there's an issue. There's almost a two-tiered health system that we know about now. So someone like me who is included can access Mindwell when I'm at my lowest point or I have some kind of mental ill health. Someone who has a more complex life than me can't do that. They don't get the good service that I get from this resource. So what can we do? Short of, and the ideal is, we pay for everyone to have some kind of digital device and infrastructure. We pay for that as a society. But short of that, I think the first step that we need to do for Mindwell is to take a step closer to the people who are excluded from our services. And by that, I mean, first of all, let's spend an hour and go, so who can't use our service? Let's say the homeless community can't use our service. So let's go find them. So there's an awful term in the NHS about people who are hard to reach. They're not, we're hard to reach, not them. Once we find where they are and where they go, then we can put these platforms there so they can have access at least 9 to 5 or when these places are open. So it could be a homeless day centre. We need to just have it. They might go to Tesco. Someone put in the chat panel working with the job centre. Perfect. Yeah, let's put it in the job centre. Let's make sure people have got it there. So it's where they go at the time that they need it. The difficulty then is, obviously the beauty of digital is I can access this thing at 3 o'clock in the morning when I desperately need that thing, and I only need a little snippet of information. If we hand leaflets out, people have to read through it and it's not in the right context for them and so on. So there's still work to do, but our first step to make it more inclusive, no one's got this perfect yet, but to make it more inclusive, is to find more places where people go who can't access this thing and put it in front of them there as a resource, and have people who are trusted there and stuff. And the one last thing I would say is, I think we've all touched on this, is that Mindwell, we might call it a service. It's probably closer to a product, because mental health services, it's like this big. Mental health services are all these things, and the NHS looks like that and so on for people. So this is part of a solution, and it's incredible, but some people don't have access to it. And I think we can take one step closer to them. The ideal being that, you know, everyone has access equitably to the internet eventually with the skills.
Thanks, Pete. That's it. You know, we're getting there, heading north, aren't we? Heading north. So I just wanted to come over to Nicola, because actually we have done some of these things, and I thought it might be worth, you know, just sharing some examples of what we have done to try and sort of meet the challenge that I think Hannah set us there. That's going to stick with me, Hannah, for this year. But I also want to sort of fold into that sort of question is something from Kwesi Affle. Thanks for joining us. And he says, is there a way of someone accessing GP services from the website if they wish to, and enter that type of pathway, so enter sort of primary care? So if you could sort of give us a bit of a summary of the kind of things we've already done to try and overcome digital exclusion, and also answer his question.
Yes. We have started to see Mindwell as an information service rather than just a digital platform. From almost the beginning, we've worked in partnership with Public Health to produce a really user-friendly leaflet called How Are You Feeling? When Mindwell came along, that was redesigned in our branding and our tone of voice, and it was really curated to make it really friendly and easy to use, and that has been distributed throughout the city and in different services for people to access. Also, during the pandemic, we worked with the Volition team, worked with the CCG, and also with Volition directly to produce a suite of paper resources specifically for people who weren't online, and these were distributed. Were actually taken around by Volition team members in their cars, and were delivered to third sector organisations so that they could share these on the front line with people who really needed to access that support. So that was it was like a crib sheet about services, and also some self-care tips and tools. So we've done that, and also we do know that professionals use Mindwell, particularly in the third sector, to print information off and give it to people, and that's one of the reasons why we've kept our PDFs, which we've made accessible, and we're moving towards that being a barrier that we have PDFs, but they're really important to keep because they're really easy to print and people can share them. Also they've been used a lot at events and in workshops when we could meet in person. So there's been a lot of ways that we have reached other people, but I think taking what Hannah was saying, it's about really making sure that everybody in the city knows that Mindwell exists. And really promoting it that really strongly. Now the other question.
Yeah, the question about GPs, yes.
Could you repeat the question?
So it's really, is there a way that people can go onto Mindwell and then be able to sort of be pointed in the direction of primary care and GP and get onto that pathway?
We've got information about when to talk to your GP, because I think people sometimes are really reticent that they're talking about their mental health to GPs. About that, and it's some reassuring information about when you can talk to your GP. We'll have a look into whether to make sure that we've got a link on there to how to find a GP and how to reach them. That's a really good point. We'll definitely make sure that happens.
Brilliant, that's fantastic. And someone else, Gwen, has got a really good idea about, is there any scope for partnership working with others? So we do quite a lot of partnership working, but she's mentioned job centres, which I think is a really
we've actually, before lockdown, our engagement officer and myself, I've been in events at job centres and talked to people directly. There was quite a lot of work going on in job centres to do kind of wellbeing events for clients, and we've sat and talked to people directly about Mindwell, given out our paper printed promotional information, and we also, I think we did a session with job centre staff as well about their wellbeing, but that's something you know, now that I think that's kind of been put on hold because of lockdown, but we could revisit that connection. It's a really important one, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. I've got another question from Kwesi, and I think this one is for Alison and, oh, she's gone, and Sarah. Oh, there you are, you've gone up to the top of the screen. You moved. Everybody moved around for some reason. So it's Alison, Sarah and Hannah. And it's, does the panel have any ideas on how or what NHS England and NHSX and so on can do to make sure that digital exclusion and debt is tackled by ICSs and also improve access to mental health services? So there's a big question for you. And Kwesi's from NHSX, so he can take this back.
So I'm happy to start off, considering I play a role within the ICS as well. I would say, a bit like the conversation we're having about this as a fantastic resource in Leeds, the same conversation at an ICS is we're not waiting to be told or instructed by others that this is an important area of work that we need to do. It's something that we are challenging ourselves every step of the way. As an integrated care system, are we all doing what we can to make sure that we're improving accessibility, not just through digital means, but because of some of the stuff that Hannah was talking about, what we know of inequalities across the board, which isn't just about whether people can access services digitally or not. It's about, at the moment, live conversations, who's turning up, who's able to get a vaccine and who isn't, and so who are the people that aren't coming to even big vaccination centres. You can have, you know, sites for people. That doesn't mean to say people are going to come. How do we take the services to communities in a way that is more acceptable? In my own organisation, we've invested in a lot of specific roles to support us in that, and learning from some of the, you know, the work that I know Alison does fantastically well in terms of that outreach model of working. It's really important. So for me, it's about that whole philosophy and principles that underpin the way that we design and deliver and improve our services. And I suppose my ask would be NHSX and NHS Digital get involved and work alongside and with us, because the solutions aren't at a national level. The solutions and the creative ways of achieving change are what happen in local communities by partners and organisations working together, which I think this is a great example of.
Hannah, I think you've got your hand up, and I think Alison also, if you're coming up straight afterwards, don't wait for me. You're on mute though, Hannah.
Sorry, Alison, I think you were before me.
Okay, off you go.
Sorry, I just saw your hand up.
Yeah, it's interesting because we took the we're also involved at a West Yorkshire and Harrogate ICS level as well, and we took the issue of digital exclusion to the sort of assurance group, the West Yorkshire Assurance Group, a couple of months ago, and so you know, it's great that it's been heard. I think inequalities is definitely that's firmly on the agenda of ICSs, which is great. But I think just ongoing drive nationally around inequality is really important. And I think the long-term plan was a bit digital is the answer, and I think that it feels like that's sort of not the message that's coming out nationally now, which does feel really positive. I suppose the other bit, just to pick up on the theme I think that Pete was talking about, and which Alison lives and breathes, and which we all believe in Leeds, that it is absolutely about co-production with those communities. So actually the solution is what we believe, putting the voice of inequalities at the centre of your health and care decision making. So let's not just produce lots of digital products that we think will be useful for people. Let's listen to people first, understand what it is that might support them, and then be driven by that.
Yes, absolutely. Principles of co-design there. Alison, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see in the chat that the Leeds CCG have just commissioned a learning disability and autism coordinator in 100% digital, which is great. But this is not about one post, this is about the infrastructure. And it's not actually just about NHS England or it's also about the whole of the system, including local authorities. What are they doing to get investment into the city? So I know that across the north, there is a huge investment in the internet, because they've just dug up my road outside. I can't remember the name of them, but there's going to be lots and lots of additional investment in access to Wi-Fi for disadvantaged communities. And I know that the LEP, so the Leeds City region, did a lot of work to get that investment here, because it's a pilot, it's a national pilot There's about 4 or 5 places in the country, and West Yorkshire is one of those places. So that's one kind of investment that we need. But also things like working with Virgin, working with Sky, working with all these massive providers who are making billions and billions of pounds after let out, very, very, very rich people. It's about them making access to smartphones much easier, much cheaper. Could we have a lending scheme? Could we introduce, when you get your library, used to come in a van when I was a kid and a younger person, can't we have the laptops being delivered and people taking those away and using those like we used to have the old library book? So I think this needs to be more trusting, because I think this is about, these things are expensive, therefore let's make sure that no one who can afford them can have them, which just makes those health inequalities much more entrenched. We need a lot more trust. We need money from the people who've got it, and we know that these huge mobile phone companies, telecommunication businesses have got that money, and the partners who facilitate them and their growth working together, so that people who are worst hit by things like the pandemic, whose health inequalities are worst, they get the investment that they need at an infrastructure level, not one post, not one tablet.
Yeah. Thank you, Alison, and I'm really looking forward to you doing more of that stuff in your new role as Deputy Mayor for the police. Is that right? Is that your
yeah, Deputy Mayor for Policing.
Yeah.
Starting August, providing I get the okay from the panel.
Yeah. Well, we're rooting for you. I'm just going to give everybody one last quick fire round to add anything that you want to, or your top tip. I was going to ask you actually your top tip around nature and mental health, because it is Mental Health Awareness Week and it is about nature. Or if you want to add anything that you've prefer to add anything else. So I'll start with Pete.
I'm a city boy. I don't know anything about nature. I'll just say that I think one thing that the central organisations, so the NHS is awful at digital inclusion, and that's because what we care about in the NHS is someone's health very specifically, not their car insurance or them getting other services. So what the central NHS can do, X and D, is they can help fund some things like service ed, but on a local level, whereas ICSs have the third sector, have the councils, have the NHS all in. So if that is a true partnership, that's where the sort of magic's going to happen. So I think the NHSX in some ways needs to just sign some checks and then move out the way.
There we go, sign some checks at HSX. Nicola, I'm going to come back to you actually, don't worry Nicola. Sana, the top tip on nature and mental health, or anything else you want to add?
Regular walking breaks. That's something I've lacked in the past year, but as soon as I started, just getting out there has really helped.
Yeah, makes all difference.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah. And Hannah?
I did tweet it. I don't think I could do without nature. Now I'm getting older, especially, nature's becoming more and more important. So those walks. I suppose what this has really reminded me about is how amazing Mindwell is. So I'm going to go off now and tweet and try and be part of that march to get everyone to know about Mindwell.
Brilliant, thank you. And you need to get that pin badged. And Alison and Sarah, sorry. Sorry.
So I'll just talk about nature, and the one thing that I found really helpful, especially in the past 14 months when it can feel as though every day is the same and it's a bit Groundhog Day, taking the time out to get a walk is just seeing the change in terms of the leaves on the trees going through autumn, flowers growing, and just being present to notice it, I think is really important from a mental well-being point of view.
Yeah. And Alison?
Yeah, and I'm really lucky because I've got a lot of trees around me in the garden, and what I love to do is throw loads of seeds at least a couple of times a week. I go out, throw loads of seeds. I've got this big garage with a big green roof, throw the seeds on, and it's amazing. The squirrels come on, the birds come on. I've had huge birds. I can't tell you what names they are, but they look amazing. And then I climb upstairs, go in the window and take my grandchild, and we just like go wild over all the different birds and the different little animals that come and entertain us. So that's amazing.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much to the whole panel for your time today. I know you're all really busy and got lots on, so really appreciate it. and also really appreciate your support for Mindwell. I'm going to just do my top tip, and then I'm going to hand over to Nicola, who I think really deserves the last word on all of this, because she is the person who, you know, day in, day out over many years has really put everything into Mindwell. And I think she's going to talk to us about the campaign and then close the door for us today on our event. My top tip is I had a really bad time. I lost my mum and a few other things happened to me, and I really sort of had sort of quite a lot of mental health difficulties. And the thing that really saved me, and I really believed it saved me, was gardening and growing and spending time going from from planting seeds, watching you know, vegetables and things that I could eat or we could eat grow, and it just made a huge difference to me. And you can do that in one pot on your windowsill, in a potato bag, or in an allotment. You know, you can do it to any extent, and it really for me made all the difference. So I'm a real advocate for nature and mental health. And I'm going to now thank everybody who's participated today and come to listen to us. And if we haven't caught your question, we'll collect all your questions and comments up, and we're going to put this on YouTube, and we'll add a response to those questions into the YouTube description. So we'll come back to you. We'll probably write a blog, I expect, as well, and I'm sure that Nicola and her team. And we should also thank Gillian and Zoe and Jane, who are behind the scenes as well. So I'm going to hand over to you, Nicola, for the last word.
Oh, thank you, Rose. I'm just very quickly going to share my screen. We're running a campaign all this week for Mental Health Awareness Week with the theme Connect with Nature. This is our fabulous nature planner designed by Gillian and Zoe. So we've got lots of wonderful tips and ideas each day. Today is Share What Nature Means to You, which we've just been doing. Please follow us on Twitter. So we'll be doing the campaign until Sunday, and check out our fantastic resources designed by the team. Look, people have been sharing nature pictures with us today. We've had some fantastic engagement, which is what it's all about. People sharing all their ideas and tips with us. Thank you, Rose.
Thank you. And I think with that, we'll close the session. So thanks ever so much, everybody on the panel, people who've helped build and get involved in Mindwell in the past, and the participants today. Thank you.